I saw her walking outside the house, drenched in rain and clearly upset. I tried to ask what was wrong, but she said she wanted to be alone. Her name is Nola, my future sister-in-law, and I knew I should have kept my distance. I told myself I only wanted to comfort her, but something unspoken had been building between us for a long time. Out in the wheat field, with the rain falling around us, that tension finally took over. So how did we end up cheating with my wife and her brother? It started a few months ago. I was a struggling tennis pro player who applied as instructor to a high-end tennis club. There, I get to meet Tom, my first student who has a filthy rich family. After our practice, we chatted, and Tom found out that I shared the same interest in opera, so he invited me to see one. On opera night, Tom introduced me to his family. I noticed that his sister, Chloe, seemed attracted to me. The next day, Chloe came to her brother's tennis practice. I taught her how to play, and as we practiced, she got to know me better. She learned that I was a poor boy from Ireland who had come to London. Later, I was invited to Tom's house. That was where I met Nola, a pretty American woman. I taught her how to properly play table tennis, and there was an immediate attraction between us. When Tom arrived, he introduced us, and I realized that Nola was his fiancée. After she left, Tom told me that he was serious about her, even though his mother was strongly against him marrying a struggling actress. I began dating Chloe. One night, after watching a movie, we made love in my apartment. Chloe's parents found me very likable. She asked her father if he could place me in one of his companies. He asked whether I had ever expressed interest, and she said no, but that I wanted to make something of my life. Later, her mother spoke openly about her distaste for Nola, calling her spoiled, moody, and not right for Tom. One night, I told Chloe that an associate of her father had offered me a job and that I was hesitant about accepting it. She encouraged me, saying it could be a stepping stone. Later, Tom and Nola arrived, and the four of us went on a double date. I found that Nola and I had a lot in common, and we often exchanged glances. I accepted the job that Chloe's father offered. After work, Chloe celebrated with me at our apartment. One day, I ran into Nola while she was on her way to an audition, and I went along with her. I waited outside, and when she came out, she looked disappointed because she had failed the audition. We later went for a drink, and as we talked, we got to know each other better. The romantic tension between us grew stronger. Later, Chloe's father told me that he had received very good feedback on my work. He offered me a scholarship to a business school and said that by next year, I could be promoted to an executive position. Tom's parents eventually found out about Nola's failed audition. His mother told her that she should consider quitting. Tom tried to defend her, but his mother continued to discourage her. Nola became upset and walked out. I saw her outside and decided to follow her. Out in the wheat field, with the rain falling around us, that tension finally took over. During another opera night, I confronted Nola and asked why she had been cold to me. She said that what happened was out of our control. She told me to move on and return to reality, reminding me that we were going to be brother and sister-in-law. At a house party, Chloe's mother got drunk and asked when Chloe and I were getting married. Chloe became embarrassed and pulled her mother away. Later, her father told me that both he and her mother would be delighted to welcome me into the family. Sometime later, I caught Tom and Nola making out passionately. When they saw me, they immediately stopped. Chloe and I got married. After that, we moved into a much larger and more expensive apartment that her father had bought. Chloe told me she wanted to get pregnant and that she wanted 3 children. During practice, I noticed that Tom was not in the mood. He admitted that he and Nola had broken up. I told him I was sorry about the breakup, but then he said he had met someone else. This time, he said, his mother liked the new woman. Months passed, and I was promoted to an executive position at the company. I went to Nola's apartment, but she was no longer living there. That night, Chloe was upset because she still wasn't getting pregnant. I reassured her that it would happen. One day, I went to an art gallery where Chloe was waiting. While I was there, I spotted Nola and ran after her. I asked where she was living and invited her to dinner. She hesitated and reminded me that I was married. Later, Chloe arrived with her friend. While they were busy talking, I quietly asked Nola for her number, and she quietly gave it to me. The next day, I went to Nola's apartment, and we made love passionately. I told her her apartment was charming even though it was cheap. She said the building had been burglarized a few times, but that it was still decent for its price. The next morning, Chloe said we had to make love because her fertility doctor said we needed to do it as often as possible in the morning. I told her I was going to be late for work. Later, I told Nola that I wanted to come up to her apartment. She said we had just spent an hour at the hotel, but I told her I couldn't help it. On the way upstairs, we ran into her neighbor, Mrs. Eastby, who introduced herself. After that, we went to bed and made love again. At the office, I was about to leave when my associate reminded me of a meeting with an important client. I told him I had an appointment, and if I wasn't back in time, I asked him to start without me. One day, Chloe's father found out that I had suffered some personal losses in the market. I admitted that I might have been careless and made bad decisions. He told me not to worry and reminded me that Chloe and I had a safety net. I thanked him, and he said I deserved it because I made Chloe happy. Despite everything, I continued my affair with Nola. One evening during dinner, Nola called me and asked me to come over because she was going crazy. When I asked what was wrong, she told me she was pregnant. I was stunned and said I would talk to her the next day. I returned to the table and said I would not be able to come with them the next day because there was something important I needed to do. I said I would just go back into town for a few hours and then return. Chloe became suspicious. The next day, I told Nola that we should get an abortion. She refused and said she had already had 2 abortions before, one when she was young and another with Tom. This time, she wanted to keep the baby and raise it with me. I told her it was not possible. Later, Chloe confronted me about my behavior. She asked if I was having an affair. I denied it. When she asked what was wrong, I told her I felt like I was letting her down because I couldn't get her pregnant. She comforted me, saying we just hadn't been lucky yet, and we reconciled. I told Nola that we were going on a holiday for 3 weeks, and that when I got back, I would tell Chloe everything. She became angry and demanded that I tell my wife immediately. I calmed her down and convinced her to wait a few weeks. The next day, Chloe told me that our holiday vacation had been postponed. I did not tell Nola about this. A week later, she called me and said she had been waiting for my call. I told her I couldn't talk because there were people around. She asked when I was coming home, and I told her in 3 weeks. One day, Nola saw me coming out of a jewelry store. That evening, she called me, and I told her I was still in Sardinia and would be back in 5 or 6 days. The next day, after I left my office, Nola confronted me. She was angry and yelling. At her apartment, we continued arguing. She demanded that I tell Chloe the truth. I told her I would help her financially, but she said that wasn't enough. She threatened that if I didn't tell my wife, she would do it herself. I told her I would do the right thing. One morning, I took my father-in-law's shotgun. I called Nola and told her to come home right after work because I had good news to share. That afternoon, I brought the gun and went to Chloe's apartment building. I first went to Nola's neighbor, Mrs. Eastby, and convinced her to let me in. Once inside, I took the shotgun and shot her. I ransacked the apartment and took her jewelry so it would look like a burglary. A while later, Nola arrived. When she reached her room, I shot her. I was crying and shaking in the cab as I went back to my wife, and later, we watched a musical together. The police arrived at the crime scene and concluded that a robber had killed the old woman, and while escaping, ran into Nola and shot her as well. The next day, Chloe and I announced the good news that she was pregnant. Everyone was happy. I later received a call from Detective Banner, who invited me to the station. On my way there, I threw Mrs. Eastby's jewelry into the river. Her wedding ring remained in my pocket, and when I tried to throw it away, it hit the railings and bounced back without me noticing. At the station, the detective asked if I had been seeing Nola. I denied it. Then he showed me Nola's diary and said my name was all over it. I admitted that I had an affair with her, but said I had nothing to do with her murder. I asked them to be discreet with their investigation because if the affair came out, it would destroy our lives, especially my wife's, since she was going to have a baby. The detective said they would continue investigating, but would try to keep things private. The detective's partner believed the case was simply a burglary. Detective Banner disagreed. He said I had a real motive and that he wanted to pursue it further. One morning, Detective Banner explained his theory. He believed I had killed the neighbor first to mislead the investigation and make it look like a robbery, then waited for Nola and killed her, making it seem as though she had surprised a burglar. He was convinced he had solved the case. Then his partner informed him that a drug addict had been killed the night before and Mrs. Eastby's wedding ring was found in his pocket. Detective Banner said he would drop the case, and it was closed. Chloe later gave birth to a baby boy. We celebrated with champagne, while I sat quietly, lost in thought.